I'm John Carrington.
And I'm Tia Taylor.
And this is Spotlight on the National Great Blacks in Wax Museum. Today's focus is going to be on the unsung heroes and heroines of World War II. I'm excited.
I am too. I love to hear these stories. I learned so much.
All right, and we'll be right back with Spotlight on the National Great Blacks in Wax Museum.
The Tuskegee Airmen were an all-black fighter squadron, the 332nd Fighter Group actually, who did bomber escort, which meant they put their life at jeopardy to make sure that the B-52 bombers got home safe.
It offered me the opportunity to be a pilot. You know, I like to look back. When I was a young man, I looked back and I thought about the Buffalo Soldiers, and I tried to amplify the things that they had done. And hopefully that the young persons that are coming behind now will try to amplify the things that I've accomplished.
Well, it's important for the younger generation to know, first of all, the history of the past, but mainly that in order to overcome obstacles, you have to be excellent. The Tuskegee Airmen stands for excellence. We were people who were in college, we were leaders of our group, we were athletes, we were valedictorians.
And it's men like this that help to provide the freedoms that we enjoy, and paved the way for specifically African American men to do their part in the war effort, not just World War II, but all the major war efforts that America has been involved in. And I just have the opportunity now on this to say thank you. Thank you for your service, sir, and your devotion to your country. And
for 92 years, and I hope 92 more.
92 years, that's what I'm saying. He's young, looks good, too strong. Hurting my hand, but that's a whole nother conversation.
It's an honor to be a part of this experience and this journey. To be able to stand and talk to living history it's really amazing.
And I'm a little overwhelmed because the president's about to watch our movie.
He recognizes the heritage that we bring to invite us here and to see this wonderful movie, this exciting movie. Is really top-notch. You will be sitting in your seat wondering what's going to happen next. You'll enjoy it.
We hope you enjoy yourselves. We're going to be bringing in popcorn for everybody who didn't get popcorn. God bless you. God bless the United States.
Welcome back to the National Great Blacks in Wax Museum Spotlight on the National Great Blacks in Wax Museum. I'm John Carrington.
I'm Tia Taylor.
And we're going to be getting into some really interesting subject area, World War II, and the heroes and heroines of that particular war. And so many of our heroes are depicted at the museum. The Tuskegee Airmen.
And that's a great story, John. It's one of my favorites to know how those men just swooped in and really fought for our country.
Yeah. Well, the bombers had to go over Germany and pound Hitler's munitions factories and his war machine, and they needed protection. And some of the fighter pilots were afraid, and they didn't have the range that was necessary to escort the bombers. So the bombers were really setting ducks for the counterattack. And so there was this group of airmen who were trained in America, the Tuskegee Airmen, black men who were trained to fly fighter planes and protect the bombers as they attempted to pound Germany into submission during World War II. And it's a tale of fighting political systems and racism that inspires everybody to always keep their focus on the goal. The goal. The goal is to win the war, whether you're black or white. You're really pushing towards the same goal. And in the end, the Tuskegee Airmen proved that it doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. It's your dedication to excellence and helping to achieve the goal that's most important.
And that's such a great story for us to know today, and to keep that story moving forward with generations to come. You know, keep your eye on the prize and on that goal.
I love it. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back with more of Spotlight on the National Great Blacks in Wax Museum.
because with everything that Dr. Brown and others have done, the approach to the work was never to be a hero. You wanted to just what?
Well, that's not totally true. You know, I grew up in Washington, D.C., and we were all very competitive in the black community. We all wanted to be heroes, whether it was the best dancer, the best scientist, the best baseball player, the best orator, and we're all very competitive. Yeah. And the one thing that gets lost in this Tuskegee story is that we really did think we were the best. Individually, we thought we were the best. Collectively, we thought we were the best. We didn't necessarily want to be heroes and win medals, but we damn sure wanted to show that we were excellent and could do anything that anybody else could do. And as I said, the big message of this play, of the Tuskegee Airmen experience, is that excellence overcomes prejudice, excellence overcomes obstacles, and that's what the Tuskegee Airmen were about, and that's what we're still about. Because in many places, you take the exam, and the officers would not grade it correctly. Lee Archer, my friend, who was our ace pilot, took the exam 5 times before they finally admitted that he'd scored 99 after several of his white friends had gotten in with a lower score. So we knew we were making history. The question was, what is your role going to be? And that's where the individualism comes in. We wanted to fly. Many of us grew up looking at airplanes, making models, writing stories about them. We wanted to fly because aviation was the frontier part of our society, just like space was the frontier part of society in the late 60s.
I told you that the first time I went up in an airplane, I went up with J.O. Clinton. And I called home in 1944 to let my mother know that I had been up in an airplane. She thought airplanes were coffins with wings on them. And I had to influence her to let me go into the service. But my mother told me one thing. She said, when I started to flying, she said, you know, they can buy more airplanes. And it was a thrill. My first solo, I didn't do any of the things that my instructor told me to do. I went out and joyrode. I just flew around Alabama and just looked out and said, look at this little fella from U Street that can fly an airplane.
Welcome back to Spotlight. You know, John, speaking of World War II, there were also several women who contributed a great deal to that time period in that war. Let's take a look at this clip and we'll learn a little bit more about some women.
Well, I'm Susan King, and last night I was told that I would represent our chapter of Rosa the Riveter. We are a chapter. We're not growing because we didn't know. And one day we'll look around and we have really shrunk. We looked all around in my travels with the Rosa the Riveter, the national chapter. We've looked around for the scarcity, and we found out that I am the scarcity because we haven't been able to find any Afro-Americans who would admit to being as old maybe as I am. I'm one of the younger Roses because I began riveting just out of high school, and I am 88 years old, which means me one of the younger ones. When I joined the Baltimore chapter, I found out that I did have a lady who worked at Eastern Aircraft. That was the old Chevrolet plant that I worked. How I ended up there were 3 of us who finished the old Douglas High School. Everything was segregated in Baltimore City, I must say to you young people, and the jobs were scarce. So we could not find a job, and somebody, parent, had read in the Afro, that's the black paper, that if we went down to Wacia Street, down there in Baltimore in inner city, there was a high school, and they had brought in men from maybe Tuskegee and some of the southern schools that had majored in industry, and they were to train our Afro-American girls how to be riveters. So the three of us, we were on the honor roll in high school, so we breezed right through the classes. From there, they sent us to Eastern Aircraft. Well, having lived in Baltimore City in a black neighborhood and very cherished and hampered by my family, I'd never been really out of the neighborhood except to go to Lexington Market or downtown to the library. So to ride all over to East Baltimore, and my brother said, "Now you know you shouldn't go over there. Should I ride with you?" No, the three of us bonded together and went to Eastern Aircraft, and we were trained as riveters. I must say, once we got to the plant, there was no segregation. And I guess it was the first time in my life that I had ever eaten in a cafeteria with white folk, because I was born in Virginia. You know how it is there. We stayed in your place, and my mother sheltered us. We came to Baltimore because this is where Daddy, with 5 children, could get a job making $5 a day. So I guess she didn't want to hear all of this because nobody told me what I should say. And my grandchildren, it's good. It's all my grandchildren tell me. I have one little fellow who now lives in Colorado, and he's very curious. He's 15. My great-grand, he's 14 years old. And he said, "Grandma, when I told the story to my classmates, they looked at me, and then somebody said, 'Well, was she in the class with Harry Tubman or something?'" Imagine anybody who could make $5 a week or $5 a day and raising a family of 6 of us. So let's get on to being a riveter. So when I went into the factory, and as I said, I did not see segregation in this particular factory. There's another person in our group who who's deceased now, and she worked at Eastern Aircraft with us. And sometimes she came in from Pittsburgh, and sometimes we would share our stories while working at Eastern Aircraft. I commanded the gun, which was the riveter, and of course the lady, my girlfriend behind me, had the booking bar, so that's how this went on. But I said, "Oh no, this is not for me. I'm making all this money." I guess was less than $60 a week, and I really always wanted to go to school to be a teacher. So I decided that when fall came, I was going to leave. In order to leave, you had to get a certificate, and they had to be approved because they told us we were frozen on the job. So I left Eastern Aircraft and went on the way to become a teacher. Now, since the war ended and all these things have happened, I have gone on with my life and reared a family, I guess, and how I happened to be how my chapter happened to know about me. One day after retirement, I was looking at the radio, at TV, which they had nothing else to do, and they said anybody who was a riveter in World War II to call this 1-800 number, which pushed me to California. And the California group picked up my story with my daughter's permission, a website, because I had to turn in all of my credentials. And from there, I guess it's history, because then I joined these ladies in the Baltimore chapter, and I still am the only one. And you wonder where the black riveters are. I don't know where they are. I talked to only one other lady, and then she couldn't remember. All my friends have passed on. And this other lady that I didn't know couldn't remember when she worked, but she was 5 years older than I, so I know she must have worked at Martin because she wasn't at Eastern Aircraft. So I don't know what else.
Wow, that was a great clip, John. Wasn't that amazing? One of the last Rosie the Riveters.
And you know something that was needed. You know, we didn't have the manpower on the home front, so the women had to do the things that were necessary to build the munitions, the tanks, the airplanes that were so needed in the war.
Yes.
I'd like to find out more about the process of becoming a pilot in the female gender. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't easy for Betsy Coleman to become a pilot.
No, and I don't know a lot about that, but I do know that Bessie Coleman was one of the first female pilots, and she was African American as well. And from what I know, she had to leave America to actually get her pilot's license. She was not allowed to obtain it here.
You know, she had to go to France in order to get the fame that she deserved and also the opportunity that she wanted. So many times the opportunities aren't where you are, so you have to go to the opportunity.
Where they are.
Yeah, and I understand that once she returned to America, with a pilot's license, the only work she could get was in a carnival stunt show, flying on the wing of an airplane.
Wow.
And I heard she died in an accident, pitiful accident, as a stunt pilot.
Wow. You know, John, from what I understand, Amelia Earhart, which was slightly after Bessie Coleman, named her plane Old Bessie. I wonder if that was not a tribute to Bessie Coleman.
Well, that is a very interesting possibility. I like that. You know, you need to visit the National Great Blacks and Wax Museum to get the real scoop on what might just be hidden history.
Well, we're going to wrap it up right now. And so we're going to come back in a few moments right after this.
Decided I had to do something for the war effort. I heard about the waves in the newspaper in San Francisco, and at work, you know, everybody was talking about it. They thought it was so terrible that women were in service and we were all going to get pregnant and be a burden on the taxpayers and all this stuff. So well, I wanted to take the dare, and we're in the streets and so forth when D-Day hit.
You know something, one of the lessons that we can get from those women who worked in the factories during World War II, taking jobs that men would have took if they had been home instead of being overseas fighting, says that if you give women an opportunity, if you give them a chance to step up to a job, it can get done. It can get done. It doesn't necessarily have to be labeled a man's job. If the person is qualified, regardless of their gender, they can do the job. And that's what World War II taught us. You know, we had to pull together as a team. I think there's a lesson there for everybody, and a lesson for our communities. Instead of dividing ourselves between race and sex, and we need to just work together and let the talent rise to the top. Whether it's Oriental, black, white, Hispanic, let the talent that's capable of doing the job step forward. I don't know, how do you feel?
I agree with you, and I think right now just that whole theme of opportunity and community couldn't be a better time than now to talk about that, because that's what we need. It's not the us and them and us. It's how are we going to make this happen together. And World War II was really a true example of that, having to come together, women having to take the jobs that men used to take, and they did a great job at it too, but how are we going to come together and be successful as a whole?
And World War II was the last war that we literally won. All the other skirmishes were always left with an open-ended paragraph to be continued. And even now the Koreas are fighting each other. Wait a minute, didn't we fight that war? No, but we didn't win it. Vietnam, we left before that was sewed up and brought to a conclusion. The Middle East, what a mess. We have to learn from our history. And the rosy derivatives of the world helped us to win the last war that we actually had a finish to. It was ended. The treaty was signed on the Missouri.
Next speaker is Brigadier General William L. Vaught. She's a U.S. Air Force retired Brigadier General. She's president of the Women in Military Service for America Memorial Foundation, and you need to know about this place, so I'm so happy that she's here.
On behalf of the Women's Memorial, I bring you greetings from all of the women, past and present, who served our country, to whom that memorial pays tribute. And that's probably in the neighborhood of between 2.5 million and 3 million women at this point. And so we just have a very small sampling of those women here. Now, it happens that today you have a significant opportunity here. I get credit a lot for having had this idea of building a memorial honoring all the women. This is not true, because I didn't have this idea. But one of the people, there were 3 or 4 people who had the idea at about that time, but one woman here today was the one who started this and worked to do the lobbying, to get the legislation passed, authorizing the memorial to be built in Washington, D.C., and that woman is June Williams. She is the woman, she came up with the American Veterans Committee with the idea of having that memorial, only she called it the Women's War Memorial. And we're not in favor of war, we're for peace. So we didn't have that. And this October 19th and 20th, we will be celebrating the 15th anniversary of the dedication of the memorial. All of you know we have had that first woman 4-star, General Ann Dunwoody, who was in the Army. She retired August the 15th. And just before that took place, I think it was the 7th of June, the Air Force promoted Janet Wolfenbarger to the 4-star, and she's the commander of Air Material Command out at Wright-Patterson in Dayton, Ohio. So we have an Air Force 4-star on duty today. And she will be the speaker at the dinner of the 15th anniversary. So there are lots of other things I could tell you, but we've been here for some time, and I will quit at that, except I'm trying to get 200 to 250,000 women registered. We're within 600 now. So if you're not if you're here and you serve the military and you're not registered, I hope you'll register. and do it quickly so I can get it in there before our program on the 19th and 20th. And I know that these WASP are registered, and I've seen several others of you here that I know are registered, so I hope that all of you will be registered so that your name, your picture, your record of service, your memorable experience go in that memorial for all time.
Wow.
This is your legacy. It's your memorial. And take advantage of it. Make it yours. Thank you very much.
You talked about some wonderful people during the process of fighting World War II, heroes and heroines. And of course, I'm John Carrington.
And I'm Tia Taylor.
And you've been watching Spotlight on National Great Blacks in Wax Museum. So until next time, stick around. National Great Blacks in Wax Museum, Spotlight. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is good. That was a good show.
That was really interesting.